Hi, welcome to Burning Blackout News. I'm Theo Talcott, your host. I'm joined by some local allies who are here to talk today about some completely important topics, and Trinity is going to lead the discussion.
Okay, so I think maybe first we could introduce ourselves. I'm Trinity, and I'm here with Katie Lyle and Sloan Peary to talk about their role in organizing the walkout at BBA that occurred this last week. So I don't know if you guys want to just introduce yourselves quickly.
Okay, yeah, I'm Katie Lyle, and this is my last year at BBA. I'm a senior. And I've lived in Vermont since 2009, and I've just found it to be such a great community full of people who really care, like Trinity here.
I'm Sloan Peary. I am a sophomore at BBA. I moved here from Los Angeles my freshman year, and I've also found that Burr and Burton in particular is an amazing community filled with really inspirational people that have inspired me to be a better person since I moved. So.
Cool. So you guys were very much involved with organizing the walkout that happened at BBA. What kind of ignited the spark? I know after the Parkland shooting, there's kind of been this mass movement of youth to make a difference because our politicians aren't doing it for us. But particularly at BBA, what kind of sparked the flame behind that to start and participate in this national action?
Yeah, so every once in a while, our assistant headmaster, Meg Kenny, puts on a forum during our lunch period in the middle of the day, where basically she leads a discussion with a bunch of students, basically whoever shows up, about any issue that is important to them and what the schools should do about it and what the students should do about it. And after the Parkland shooting on February 14th, we had February break right after then. So after February break, Meg Kenny convened another one of these meetings about specifically school safety. And we expected it to, she and I both expected it to go along the lines of just what safety measures should the school implement, but instead it was such an amazing outpouring of student support for the walkout movement, which just started to circulate and become created around that time. And as soon as the national walkout date of March 14th, 10 a.m., 17 minutes to honor the 17 lives lost in the shooting in Parkland, as soon as that was set, we decided that definitely needed to be brought to Manchester. So a team of students and I just contacted the administration and said, we're going to do this. The students are going to do this. We would really love your support, but even if we don't have it, the students are going to walk out and the students are going to protest.
Nice. So as far as administration support, was there a lot of administration support? Was everyone supportive of this walkout? What were your thoughts about that, feelings towards?
Well, I think the administration was very supportive. In fact, I think a little bit too supportive. The purpose of the walkout was to get adults' attention and use our voices as children to really inspire everyone around us to make actual change. And that would only happen if we did something that really disrupted the flow of our school day or whatever is going on. And the walkout was very, very planned, and administration wanted to help us plan it. And we declined because although they were mostly all supportive, it made a greater impact that it was student-led rather than administration-led, which was a really important piece for students.
Yeah, and exactly. I was part of the team of the 3 students who just, rather than telling the administration we wanted to do to join in this national walkout and have them tell us what to do, all we did was keep administration informed of who was planning on walking out, so simply they could remain accountable for their students, but still let the students have our student organized protest.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So the walkout, it's happened now, and I know we couldn't do it on Wednesday, on the day that a lot of the nation was doing it due to a snowstorm, as we're in Vermont, and that happens. Yeah. But what were your just feelings of how it went as far as, what you envisioned and then what it looked like when it happened, and kind of your own emotional take on how everything went on Monday.
Yeah, I was super proud of all of the students, whether they participated or peacefully declined to participate. There was no big division among the student body between those who protested and those who decided not to. Rather, it was an incredibly unifying event, and it seemed like all of the students really showed that they have a voice and they care. And that was such an amazing outpouring of support to receive for an issue that really affects us all.
I think the snow day was actually a great example of how amazing our community is, that we didn't even let a snow day get in our way at all. We were like, okay, we'll just postpone it. But yeah, I think I'm not a religious person, but it was one of the closest things to a spiritual experience that I've had. It was just amazing to see so many children in particular, women, men, like every year of high school out there with their signs and just walked out of class. It was just, I don't know, I think it was more amazing than I anticipated actually.
Yeah, and another amazing thing about this was not only the student and faculty supporters, but also there were numerous community members, whether they were representing local papers or simply there to hold their own signs and join in the support of students throughout the country. That was amazing to see that it wasn't, that even though it's the students find it as our own issue, that we have support from not just the youth, but also from adults across America.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I remember just like my own experience. I wasn't involved in organizing the march, but I participated, or in the walkout, but I participated. And as everyone started walking out of the school buildings at 10 o'clock, you kind of just would go down past this wall of adults who were just standing there in solidarity. And it was such a really powerful feeling because they were there to support all of us. And I completely agree with what you said, Sloan, about it being spiritual. It was just so quiet.
Yeah.
All those people being so quiet. It was really amazing. Theo, do you have any?
Sure, I'll chime in. I was there also, and yeah, I would echo the sentiment that it had a sort of a spiritual quality of like a meditation or like a group spirit walk, because it was so quiet. You could hear like the drone, you could hear the spring birds, you could hear the silence of the feet as they're clip-clopping down the lane was just profound. And yeah, there was a lot of community members turned out to watch, and so it did feel like a really special, powerful moment.
Yeah. I do have one thing to add, that I think it was amazing that all the kids were there and that kids across the country, especially from Parkland School, have really come together. But I do think it's unfortunate that these adults have our backs, but they should be the ones that originally were in front. So I think that to me has been a really hard issue to kind of tackle. Do I step up and like take this challenge and like really try to do things, which I have been doing, or should I step back and see what adults do, because they're the ones supposed to be guiding us. They're the ones that can make the legislation. It's a weird balance for me, and I don't know how adults feel.
I feel like you guys are the cavalry coming to save us, and I'm really hopeful. I mean, honestly, watching the Parkland students was just incredible when that young man Cameron cross-examined Marco Rubio. It's probably maybe the best moment of politics in the last decade. Just like be like, oh, there is hope. Oh my God, okay, here they come. You know, they're not so hypnotized by their phone that they won't, come and be awesome. So I would like to ask you about that moment. It does feel like there's a youth kind of awakening in the country, or like that you might be able to have power and come forward. Do you guys feel that's true?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there is a huge disparity between the way that adults are acting about this issue throughout the country and the way that kids like us are acting throughout the country. And that, at least for me, the Sandy Hook shooting was the first big national tragedy that I was exposed to. For generations in the past, you have things like, where were you when the Challenger exploded? Where were you when you heard about 9/11? And for me, the first one for our generation was Sandy Hook. And to have a horrible event like that happen, it just felt like something that would never happen again. And that was a once-in-a-lifetime great tragedy in this country. And then it happened again, and mass shootings just keep happening in this country and at an unprecedented rate. And it feels like the adults in this country have become desensitized to just how horrific these events truly are, and that they're just another fact of life. But that's not true. They're preventable, and there's things that our government can do and things that our government needs to do in order to make sure that this won't ever happen again. Yeah. And I think that's something that the kids are really understanding, and I'm really proud of all of the kids throughout the country that have stood up and said that we're not going to let this happen, and that even though we are dismissed as kids, we are dismissed as people who can't even vote yet, we're going to use our voice and we're going to use it loudly.
Right on.
Yes.
I wonder, have you guys spent, like, you probably go through like shooter trainings in school. Do you guys have to go through like, I think one of the reasons adults maybe don't have the right amount of fear is they probably haven't gone through like lockdown drills with their, and so they don't really, you know, do you guys get those at school?
We recently had a lockdown drill. We haven't, it wasn't specifically said that it was an active shooter drill. I don't know offhand if it was or not. I think though that, like Katie said, adults have become a little bit numb to the fact that it's not just something you see on the news. You're like, oh, that's so sad, you cry, and then you move on. It's, for us, and at least for me, like, I go to school and I walk down like a stairwell and I think about an active shooter coming into school every day. It happens on a daily basis. And when I was little, it didn't happen. But as I grew older, the shootings got more prevalent and more often, and I started thinking about it more and more. And I think that's why children have stood up, because adults don't go through that. They don't sit at their homes or in an office and think about that. It's the kids that are thinking about it all the time, and our friends and people our age that are dying. And so I think that that is really important to me individually, and I think that's why I've kind of stood up for everything that's been going on, and a lot of people in our generation have been, and that our schools in particular are particularly involved in this issue.
Yeah, and at least for me, lockdown drills are terrifying. Like, I'm not a particularly nervous person, but at our school, it's one really long bell ringing that makes us know that we have a lockdown. And when I hear that, it only happens like maybe once a year to the specific building that I happen to be in at the time. But when that happens, I literally, like, my hands just start shaking. And even though we have lockdown drills, I know it's almost definitely a drill. Like, why would it not be a drill? I can't dismiss the feeling that it's not, and that I'm in real danger, and so are the other people in my school. And that's such a symptom of this issue throughout the country. And it's another just huge realization that we need to do something, because kids shouldn't be scared when they go to school. They should go to school and be excited to learn and not think about the most recent event in the media.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. You guys are giving me chills. Yeah, it's, I remember, because I personally, I was homeschooled for quite a few years, and my sophomore year, last year at BBA, was my first year in a public school in quite a while. And I remember the first lockdown drill that I encountered, and first of all, it's like that same terrifying experience. And right then, it wasn't mass shootings and everything. It wasn't quite as much in my head as right now. Like, as you were saying, Sloan, like I get afraid sometimes, very afraid, about just going to school, because now it seems like such a target. But just the fact that we have to do lockdown drills within our schools, and the fact that it's such a real fear right now, and it has been, and that children have to deal with this while they're trying to learn, while they're trying to interact with their peers. It really, really makes this such an important movement, I think, children standing up for themselves and letting their voices be heard. So I know you guys have spoken like a little bit about why this issue is so important to you. We're almost out of time, but like, are there any other reasons why you were dedicated to organizing the walkout at BBA? And I know BBA, now a lot of students are going down to the march in Washington this coming weekend. Or just like any last thoughts you guys have about this to say today?
Yeah. Well, I guess my last statement would be just to all of the adults out there, just help the kids. The kids are the future of this country, and we're trying really hard to make a change now. And even if it doesn't seem like a statistically probable event, because of course it isn't, but school shootings still do happen. And I heard it put by Griff Gord, a student at Long Trail School near BBA. He said, he put it this way, your house probably isn't going to burn down, but people still buy homeowners insurance. And your school probably isn't going to get shot up, but we still want to pass legislation to make sure that it's even less likely to happen.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I would love to encourage adults to really help the kids who've kind of inspired many of the adults that I've heard, like my mom and my dad and all these people. And I would like to tell them that arming teachers is not the answer. That's not what we want. That's not what we're advocating for. We're advocating for safer schools, that we want to see positive change, not more firearms, nothing like that. We want to see more control. And to me, I think with all these issues going on, I can't just sit back. It's impossible for me when people I know are affected by these issues. I can't just sit back and do nothing. I have to be out there. I have to be advocating for myself and for fellow students and people around me, because otherwise it could happen at our school, and that's obviously not what we want. That's why I'm out there every day.
Okay.
Well, I'm a Burr and Burton alumni, class of '89, and I'm super proud of my old alma mater, and it's really encouraging. You guys are finding your voice, and I look forward to having you lead the country.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all.